I know. I love this like awareness of our inanimate companions.
That shit was real. That was
You were
real.
like, "How
Yeah.
we all doing?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to just think it was so. Yeah, I used to mean this, man. I just used to be like, can we just all not be so fucking mean to each other, but also like to ants? You know what I'm saying? To forks. I remember, like, I mean, and the hard part is like sandwiches. You know what I mean? Like, because I used to love a sandwich, but then I used to be like, damn, that bread just like got that big ass like bitten out of it. That's wild. But it didn't stop me from eating. So I'm not. Just I'm trying to say there was limits to this. You know.
Welcome to Stars and Stars with Issa. This is the show where we look to the stars above with the stars below. I'm Issa Nakazawa, your host and resident astrologer. And in today's episode, I speak to one of my all-time favorite writers, Kiese Laymon. Kiese is an award-winning author of multiple books, including the critically acclaimed memoir Heavy and the recently released children's book City Summer, Country Summer. He's also a professor of English and creative writing at Rice University. As a Libra rising, Kiese has a keen eye for noticing imbalances in the world around us, the things that are just out of step, and he's devoted to restoring that harmony, a sensitivity he says his grandmama saw in him from when he was just a little boy. In our conversation, Kiese talks about how he approaches truth-telling in his writing, even when his Leo sun's instinct is to protect those he writes about. We also discuss how people from James Baldwin to his beloved grandmother taught him about love and how he's navigated the challenge of becoming more vulnerable in his relationships. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Today, I'm overjoyed and too hyped to be in conversation with one of my absolute favorite writers, professor of English and creative writing at Rice University, joining us from Texas with unicorn headphones, Kiese Laymon.
Hey, so thank you for having me in my unicorn headphones. I'm glad that y'all accept us how we come, you know?
It's just such an honor. I was like, all my homies are here in this conversation with us today. Like, you've shaped so much of just our imaginations and given language to a lot of the things that our ancestor right here lurking behind Baldwin. I like having my ancestors like lurking behind me. It's kind of scary.
I need to do that. Yeah. It's definitely like holds you. You can't do too much fucked up shit.
And like they're in this image.
That's right. There's only so much fucked up shit you can do. But then again, Baldwin was one of he was out there. So sometimes you might be like, I'm playing a little too safe. Oh boy, looking at me.
Yes, yeah. That's why I chose Baldwin, because I feel like he's kind of unimpressed.
Right. Yes.
And he was really, and this is a theme of our conversation today, but he was someone who really just invited the messy ugliness of an underbelly of all of the like topics that I find a hard time with like artists who aren't willing to go there, because then it feels like we're not mirroring the full breadth of what we need to be talking about. And I mean that also in a personal, vulnerable sense, not just in an intellectual, safe way. I always start before going into your chart with just this like opening question of what's your relationship to astrology? And if there's no relationship, maybe you could speak to like if you have any relationship to like a birth story or a cosmology in your family.
Well, I'm Black and from Mississippi, so there's a relationship to it. My earliest relationship was my mother had me when she was really young. There was a point when I got like 13 or 14 where we looked like siblings, and men would always come up to me and say, one, hey man, what's your sister's phone number? Or, hey homie, tell me your sister, what's your sister's sign? So like that was my mother was a Gemini. I remember my mother, I learned how to read by reading sports sections of newspapers, but I also would read the movie section, and I would read the astrology section every day. But it wasn't for me. It was because my mother was a Gemini and she really believed in it, and I was like a mother's boy. So I just always wanted to know what was going to be happening with my mama when she was away from me. So that sort of is like the basis. And ever since then, you meet people who, I mean, shit, everybody I know is deeply into it, and I'm just like that kind of like, that kind of fat dude is like, yeah, I know that's right. I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. Like, I'm agreeable. You know what I mean?
Know,
like,
that's right.
Yo, for real? Son, what? Like Mercury retrograde, Libra rising, Cancer falling. I know,
Cancer
I feel you.
falling.
So I am very open to it, but in my life, it's just been like something that the characters in my life who mean the most to me.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if it's the word. I don't even know what the verb is. Believe in it, trust in it, live by it. And I have nothing against it. It's just like I just haven't put the time and effort into exploring like what it means to me in my life and all of that kind of
That
stuff.
was an incredible answer, and I'm so grateful that you're open to it. And for me, the show is way less motivated and driven by faith because I approached astrology through the lens of skepticism.
Oh,
And even in my practice, like doubt is part of all of our practices and crafts. And I love just having conversations about faith. And I think it's less about belief and more like how can this connection to the cosmos or to something beyond us that's within us kind of elicit different conversations and threads from our life. So
I love it.
let's go on this journey. So we always start by sharing what we know as the big three, which is your sun, moon, and rising. And your luminaries in astrology are really important because obviously the sun and moon in our solar system are really important. So you are a Leo sun, which you knew, a Cancer moon, which is the mama's boy signature, and a Libra rising, which how much of this did you know? Did you just know Leo sun?
None of it.
Okay, great.
If you told me some of this in the previous interaction over email, maybe that's what I knew. But so what? I'm a Libra. I'm a Leo sun.
Leo sun. So that's like when you say, what's your star sign? It's your birthday
Oh, okay.
sign. So it's like you're
All right.
you're a Leo, I'm a Scorpio. Your mom's a
Okay.
Gemini. That's sun.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
your moon we'll get to. But we always start in astrology when we read your star map, which again, is your star map or your cosmic blueprint is just a diagram, a snapshot of the sky at the exact time and location of your birth. So you are a Libra, and Libra is the seventh sign of the zodiac. And it's the zodiac is a narrative, and it starts with Aries and it ends with Pisces. And Libra sits in the middle, boom, number 7. And it's the first sign that mirrors another sign that sits across from the wheel, which is Aries. So yours is the Libra Aries axis. And everyone always thinks of Libra in ways that totally make sense, of like the diplomat, the mediator, the one that sits in between worlds, right? But I also want you to think of this notion of 7, which is it's an odd number. So Libra risings are not actually existing in the stasis of equanimity. They're actually almost like running from one end of the ship to the next. And because it's an air sign, I want you to think of air signs as attuned and observational to, so Libra is like attuned to injustice. So it's observing the ways that power is imbalanced.
Wow.
So instead of Libra just being like, oh, it's a people-pleasing sign that loves people, I'm like,
right.
I'm like, facts.
Yeah.
And that feels
yeah.
incomplete. It feels incomplete. And I think you're such a good example of this type of like understanding and being attuned to where there is like a deeper mirroring that's not just about politeness.
Yeah.
So I wanted to start here with Baldwin, who you have a lot in common with in your chart. And that quote that Baldwin says, that's really articulating this existential imperative of seeing ourselves in the other. And this quote that, you know, all Baldwin quotes now are so like famous, but this one that he says, everyone you're looking at is also you. You could be that person. You could be that monster. You could be that cop. And you have to decide in yourself not to be. And this is the Libra rising gift, right? But this is the particular gift of your work. And I feel like this is where you take up the mantle of Baldwin, of what I was saying, of the complicity is also me. And if I was raised in empire, then I'm also shaped by empire. And so there's this kind of mirroring and magnifying. So I wonder if you could take me back to childhood and tell me a little bit about those early moments. It doesn't have to be when you were a baby, but like those formative moments when you started to realize that everyone you're looking at is also you.
You know, my mother was 19 when she had me. My father was 20. They were students at Jackson State University and in Jackson, Mississippi. And after my mother had me, like she sped up a year and she graduated early and went to grad school at Wisconsin with my father. And I stayed with them for a bit, but I also spent a good amount of time with my grandmama. I think the first time I remember seeing other people in myself, I can't remember a time when I did not feel that, but I remember the first time I had a conversation about that was like with my grandmama. I must have been like 6, and she was trying to teach me how to pray. I remember the first time my grandma had a conversation with me about, I mean, I'm writing a book about this, so I shouldn't talk about it, but I'm gonna, just being sensitive. She called it sensitive. She's like, baby, you sensitive. And I didn't know what that meant, but now I know. And I mean, I learned that she meant sensitive. And it wasn't the kind of conversation where she was like, you see other people and you're going to be so kind and you're going to get run over. It was kind of like, what she actually said was, what I actually remember her saying was that you see life in everybody and everything. And she was like, you're not, I mean, this is what I remember. She's like, you're not a hunter.
Ooh.
But in her mind, she was like, you can be something worse than that, because you're going to get, your wires will get malfunction, right? Like feeling everything or whatever, or being sensitive or sensitive. She was like, those people don't know how to metabolize hurt. That's really what she was saying. She didn't use those words, but that's what she was saying. So, I mean, the first time I remember being confronted with like what I've been feeling like ever since I was a kid was my grandmama.
And when I'm hearing you speak, a question that comes to mind is like, does that early sensitivity, is that more aimed at the belt and the world than yourself? Like, is that almost like protecting people from that instead of nurturing that in yourself? Did that make sense? Like, it's almost like...
I think I was trying to nurture myself. I think so, but I didn't ever want to like nurture myself at the expense of like somebody else, for sure. Another animal, definitely. Or even sometimes like pillowcases and shit. You know, I was like, this fucking pillowcase has to like sleep all night with my big ass head on it. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. I mean, I would share everything with people, but I'm sure I was and still am like mad motherfucking selfish. But it's like, I didn't care about like I didn't want anything more than somebody else. You know, like for me, it was like much more important for somebody else to have something I had than for me to have it. And that's still, I mean, that's just true. I was just born that way, I think. So
I know. Yeah. I love this like awareness of our inanimate companions.
That shit was real. That was real.
You were like, how we all doing?
Yeah. I used to just think it was so. Yeah, I used to mean this, man. I just used to be like, can we just all not be so fucking mean to each other, but also like to ants, you know what I'm saying? To forks. I remember, like, and the hard part is like sandwiches, you know what I mean? Like, cause I used to love a sandwich, but then I used to be like, damn, that bread just like got that big ass like bitten out of it. That's wild. But it didn't stop me from eating. So I'm not just, I'm trying to say there was limits to this.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, I'm aware. Yeah. I agree. You have all these like other planets that are at the time of your birth were very near your ascendant mark. And so it adds like an energetic charge to the way that your Libra would orient itself, where another Libra rising would be completely different. So that's why astrology is actually very, very textured and specific. It's not really generic. So you had one of Scorpio co-rulers, which is a modern planet. So in the traditional system, Pluto wasn't discovered yet. Pluto's a modern planet, and it's one of Scorpio's co-rulers, and it's the underworld planet. It's the planet of transformation, and it's the planet that goes into, it's the long, dark descent. And then through that descent into the psyche, one emerges reborn.
Oh, whoa.
And so that is on your ascendant, which usually signifies someone who's had to deal with this crucible of power. And it's usually states of disempowerment that then... because your power is being taken from you and seized from you at a young age, you have to go within to create safety. But I think something that I'm interested about is like this kind of hide and seek dynamic with Pluto, because there's a way in which we like hide from our own power, and people who are super close to us might have no sense of how much we want and desire because we're afraid of it.
Wow.
We're like afraid of our power. But then here comes you, and you're super powerful and have changed all of our lives in your work. But I know as an artist myself, that doesn't necessarily translate to all these other realms in my life where like that power isn't easy for me to access, like romantically, or you know what I mean? Can you speak to like one thing in your life right now, in whatever, like however comfortable you feel going into detail, but like a thing where you're like, this is easy over here for me to be courageous and brave on the page, but it's not translating yet to this lived shit.
Woo wee! Oh man, I should have, I should have checked in for
I should have
this is
checked in.
checked. It's weird because I know love is so important. I know love is so important because the person who really responsibly loved me, and because that person who's above your head right now, Baldwin. I think my grandmother and Baldwin, I think, have taught me more about love, I think, than anybody, any other two people on earth. But no matter what they, and because of what they've taught me, I know that one of my failures is persistent and consistent, which is like I just don't know how to like ask people for any sort of like significant for help. And so one, and you can argue that the writing is sort of like my because my writing often is like a plea to people to do certain things, but in like life off the page, like I don't know how to ask people for help. Like if my tire's flat, I don't know. I never ask anybody in this world for any money. You know what I mean? Like and I never will. I don't know how to ask doctors to actually like treat me right. I don't know, but when they do, or dentists, but my people will tell you like if when I'm one of those people who, like I'll talk all this rah rah like liberation shit. Let me go to some white doctor and like let me walk up out of there. I'm like, I'm like, thank you, man. Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, thank you for not killing me. Oh my God, like I want to marry this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I'm not asking people for shit ever, but it also makes me so. I've never talked about this, but like I'm so grateful. Like I'm just like grossly grateful. My closest friends would say, you know what I mean. But I can't. But it's real, fam. Like I'm a very grateful person because I think people busy. I don't want to have my feelings hurt. I don't want to impose. And you talk. I think we're talking about beauty and intimacy and like like intimacy and sexually like it's hard to believe when somebody actually wants to do things with you that you might want to do but are afraid to say. I'm not sure if that's where you were going with that, but anyway, so I'm just saying like like what you're saying is it's something I wish I would have figured out at like 31. Instead I'm like 51. And I'm still, because I know I don't know if you can love if you're not willing to be in debt. Like I don't know if you can love if you're not willing to be in debt, but I'm not fucking with that debt right now. You know what I mean? Like, my whole life, I'm just scared to be in debt. So,
But I think and thank you so much for just meeting me in the space, because I know it's
for sure.
it's an interesting space I'd be bringing us into. But I had been thinking of how your work. I always loved Adrienne Rich's quote, "Even our intimacies are rigged with terror," which feels very Baldwin, and then a lot of
Most
your
definitely.
work too. And to me, it actually makes so much sense that this is the truth. This is the reality of it. We're not just writing sentences to be cute.
No.
Like the sentences that you write are what you're saying. Like there is and
Right.
Baldwin's, the reason that I really am a student of him is because he gave us the heads up of what we were going to experience, of the chasm between who we think we are and then whom we ultimately are when the doors are closed.
Whew.
None of us are exempt.
Yeah, nobody.
Even you. Like even the ones who have the gift to keep saying,
Right.
look here. And that's your Leo. Like Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun sits at the center of the solar system. A Leo sun. Like Leos are saying,
Right.
look. I think the Leos that are really in their power and their gift are the ones that are the spotlight. And they're the ones that are very intentional with saying the quality of our looking is the quality of our living. So where are we looking? How are we looking? But Leo is ruled by the sun. So it's here to sit at the center and it's here to centralize. It's here to pull focus, right? So that's why someone like Baldwin can talk and everyone gets quiet to listen and lean in.
Right.
Because that's what Leos are here to do. It's not because Leos are vain. It's like that's what Leos are here to do.
That's amazing.
And it's generous if you think about it. Right. And when you think of Leo, and this is another one of my questions, is I want you to think of the lion that's so protective. You can talk shit about the family, but no one else can, because that's earned.
Right.
That's earned shit talking.
Right. That's right.
You don't know grandma. You don't know mom. Like you can't say anything. That's like family business. Right. But then you come out with heavy. And this fascinates me on some like growing up with the no snitch culture, knowing that there is something so sacred And we could talk about him all day around moments he did regret spilling business in front of the white liberal press and then being
For
like,
sure.
I shouldn't have done that.
For sure.
Invisible man, you know? But how do you walk that line as a Leo that's so protective, but then at the same time, conspiring to keep secrets can also be how shame grows?
Yeah, I think once you understand that shame will like burn your shit up from the inside out, like thoroughly, and you have something you're drawn to, well, you know, if it's hopscotch or double dutch or writing, you know, for me it's just writing sentences and building shit through writing. I want to do it with as much integrity as possible. And I actually think sometimes, like, I think Heavy was like, you know, at the time was the hardest thing I ever wrote, but also it's the thing I wrote that has the most integrity, meaning I showed the most love for sentences and for the actual people I'm writing about than I've shown in anything I've ever written. And like, I kind of thought that when I finished it, but people who know my mother and who know me, those are the people who I really have to listen to. And, you know, and all of those people, my grandmama, my mama, well, not my mama, my mama's sisters, you know, people who grew up around us, you know, they were like, fam, you were so loving in that text. Now, loving doesn't mean that my mama wanted to be seen by the world, but at the same time, that's what I'm saying. It's like the only thing I feel like mad confident in this world is like making books, making sentences. So like I'm gonna try to make that shit and again, because like I think if you abuse people or hurt people or harm people, more importantly, if you do that and then the person says, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop, and you can't help yourself, well, then I think that person has to do whatever they can to protect themselves. I don't give a fuck if it's like family, in-house, outhouse. I don't give a, you know, Palestine, fucking like, well, whoever. Like, you know, once motherfuckers say, please, 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 please stop, and then you say, I can't, well, then you have to go about your business. And so for me, it's like making that book was telling the world, telling my mama, and also telling the abusive person who is me to please stop. And I think it is partially telling people's business, but I talked to my mama and the people in that book about all that shit before I put it out. I asked most of them if it was okay if I put it out. For the most part, everybody was like, yes. My mama said, for a few things, said no. And I put some of that shit out anyway, because I love her and because I love myself and because I have a confidence in art making. But it definitely feels like betrayal on some level too. Right? Like, yeah.
It was just so beautiful because I think, and it was interesting at the time in like 2018, watching you get interviewed by a lot of white interviewers. There was like an assumption that there wasn't a collaboration at play with you and, you know, your mom specifically.
And the thing about those early interviews is not only were they surprised that my mother and I worked on this together, like most of those early white interviewers were like, they were sure she was dead.
You know, they were like, really confusing. I'm not gonna lie.
They were all like, so your mama's been gone for how long? I was like, gone where? My nigga, like, where's she at? She's not alive.
Such a generous interviewee too.
Here? What you hear about? Like she's very much alive. But like to me, that's what I'm trying to say about. Yeah, it's weird. Like in regular life, I'm not like the grab your nuts kind of guy. Like, you know what I mean? But when it comes to that writing thing, like part of the whole thing was like, fam, yeah, like I did this with my mom alive. Like that's part of the dun. That's part of the dun da da. Like you don't even get the book. So that shit is hard. You know, coming from families we come from. You don't, even if you do it, whether you do it well or do it poorly, you don't do that.
You
don't do that. But what is that? Part of that is like, you don't tell the truth. And I think my family be like, you don't tell the truth outside the house. No, fam, we don't tell the truth inside the house. So.
That's not funny, but it is.
Yeah, that's, you know, people like, you gotta keep that. Don't take that outside the house. I'm like, well, motherfucker, I wouldn't take it outside the house if I ever heard motherfuckers talk about this outside of whispers in the house.
There is like this kid glove thing that I keep peeping around grief and even like abuse and addiction. Like there's this, like, we feel like we have to like hold it so in this NPR, like, oh, like, and it's like, don't pity. We don't need pity.
No pity. No pity.
Yeah. We don't need the pity voice when those topics come up in the same way. It's like racism. It's like, guys, this is the air we breathe. We really should keep it real.
For real. Air racist. The air. That's so. That's so. The air racist as fuck, fam. Like that. You need to coin that. The air racist.
The
No is.
forks,
That's right. That's right.
the
That's right.
sandwiches.
The sandwiches. Hey, if they got feelings, they got racism in them. You know what I mean? Right. That's the
I don't know, just
truth.
when people try and like act like it's over there and it's a monster
Right.
and we're like, oh, it's like that's how you get Trump, y'all, because you're just so
I mean,
fixated on
absolutely,
it. You're
absolutely,
so
and that's the worst of us. That is that thing, and I'm sure there's all sorts of incredible terms for it that you know. But that thing you just described, like, I mean, that shit destroys. It occupies land. It fucking like removes fucking native indigenous people from like what I'd call Mississippi. It goes over the goddamn like the continent and takes motherfuckers in fucking like ships. You know what I mean? Because if like, how do you do any of that if you're at all like critical of self? Like, how do you do any of that if you're looking at yourself honestly and fairly, and you believe what we start this conversation with, that the thing that I do to other people deserves to be done to me, or verse versa. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. Any of that horrible shit if you sit in what you said. So yeah, you got me moving right now. I feel that.
and it's actually really profound we're talking about this because your sun sign, every sun in the wheel, every planet sits in like a slice of pie, which is what we call houses. And they're the realms of life that the planet influence. And your sun is shining in the house of the collective, the community. And it's this really deep placement where the sun, which is an extension of you, is here to shine in service of the commons, of the community. And it's really deep. I mean, it is as deep as like, what is that? In Lakesh, like that, those kinds of notions of I am we, like it is as deep as that, where it's like, so much of your chart is like there's almost no separation, like what you're saying in this cosmic sense of this like united kind of sense of like a celestial body.
Right.
But you just showed the poetry of that placement, which is how specific the fixed Leo sun is about where there's demarcation and delineation to be made. Of like, I need to do the work to honor the we. Like, I need to be so clear about the specifics and details of the I so that the we isn't just like an escape thing.
Absolutely. And when we fuck people up, which I hope we don't, but when we aid in fucking people up, like, my thing is like, how do you repair that thing that you have like destroyed? And I mean that like literally, I mean it figuratively, but that's the thing, like, like part of me, because like you blow my mind right now, I'm kind of wanting all the answers from you in this way that like is fucked up, because you started this shit off by kind of also like letting me know like the answer, like this kind of typical way of going into shit, like, but my whole point is, my whole question about what we do here in this world is, well, if you feel that other people are you and you feel connected, yet you still aid an industry that destroys and hurts. You aid an industry of love and intimacy that often destroys and hurts. Like, I mean, this is cliche now, sadly, but like, how do you make that shit right? How do you repair it? How do you repair? Like, are there any good signs for repair?
You have the two repair signs. Your moon,
Oh, wow.
your moon and your sun are at home. So all of the planets have like a place they want to be, that they want to be kicking it at, that they feel safe. And your sun wants to be in Leo. Leo's ruled by the sun, and that's where it is. And then the moon wants to be in Cancer. So both of your luminaries are seated in their rightful place where they can access their planetary resources. And the moon is the place of repair. One of the things that really stood out to me about Leo sun, Cancer moon, is that both of them have a lot of significations in astrology with children. So Leo is the child. It's in the tarot because there's a lot of the way all of these kind of occultic languages speak to each other, is the sun. And the sun is this naked child, completely unarmored.
Wow.
Like no armor. Now Cancer has armor. Cancer and Scorpio are the water signs that have armor. But Cancer doesn't have a stinger like Scorpio. And Cancer just, it's more just like it moves sideways. Cancer crabs move sideways. And it's more about like like you said, they're not the hunter sign, right? So that's the most important thing. But Cancer also is the protector. So both of them are really attuned into the importance of children as kind of like the life force, and like some of the most the litmus test of truth in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And you started writing children's book. And I wondered just if you could just, before we talk about City Summer, Country Summer, like why children's books?
Well, I wrote a piece in 2020 for the New York Times after George Floyd was murdered, and there was all these pictures that Andre Wagner took of like black boys in New York City, and they asked me to write like a complimentary essay. And because like a lot of people were feeling that you could try shit at the time that you couldn't try before, I was like, I'm gonna write a prose poem where I bring some of those kids or one of those kids from New York to Mississippi, and we're gonna play Marco Polo in this like fictitious garden between my grandmother's house and my godmother's house. The garden was real. We used to play Marco Polo, but there was never a kid from New York who came down and we played with them. So I did that, and then, a wonderful editor at Coquila came and was like, we want to turn that into a children's book. But the real answer to your question is like, I've been trying to write, my first book, Long Division, I was trying to write, I'm sort of suspicious of all these titles. I wasn't trying to write YA necessarily, but I was definitely trying to write to young people in Mississippi. And Heavy, I was also like I was trying to write to young people in Mississippi. How to Slowly, I was also, so everything I write, I've been trying to write to young people. But that kids book, ironically, was made with young people in mind. But it didn't originate I didn't originate that text being like, oh, this is going to be a young person's book. But the next young person's book that I'm publishing, I'm trying to make that for young people.
What is that? I mean,
for kids.
Yeah. What is that like funnel of a child do to the writing, like, or to the sentence, like that kind of like that.
Yeah. For me, it keeps, you talk about this word honest. It's one way for me to keep it honest because, coming from where I come from and the way I came into literary shit is like, the expectation was that you're not going to write humor. You're not going to write the body in awkward, like I would say, like childlike ways. You're not going to use like the idiom of children. To be taken seriously as a literary writer, you have to like, cross your legs and wear some fucking hot ass suit. Like, and even if you don't, the language is supposed to do that. So I just always wanted to fucking obliterate that bullshit with like the way I write, what I write, but also I'm never gonna fucking run away from like the most meaningful time in my life, which was like childhood. Like my friendships in childhood were holy. My relationship with my granny as a child, like that was holy. My relationship to that land that my granny, worked as a young person and ultimately owned, like that shit was holy. So I gotta always try to honor that.
Okay, I'm gonna take us back to your Cancer moon because it was really related to everything you were saying, because what I want you to take away from this is that Cancer carries a lot of these associations that you're speaking to. It's known as the sign of the like emotional archivist. So when you're Cancer moon, a lot of the like emotional gifts are also storytelling about your roots. And those roots can be literal, like Mississippi or the memory of your grandma, or it could be diaspora. It's all of it, but I think there's a way in which you really live that quite obviously. Like I think you're always like, it's like citations of childhood throughout your work, and in interviews it's like just a part of you, you know what I mean?
Right.
You're always like situating yourself within the place that raised you, that
for sure,
even if you're not there anymore, it doesn't matter. Like
right.
And you also have a lot of, again, I mean, we're like going back to Baldwin so much, but there is kind of this like tradition about if we don't reckon with the weight of where we've been, there's something that we can't, there's some price we're not paying for our freedom, right? This kind of question of reckoning and remembering. And this is also Tony of the Rememory, right? Which comes up a lot on this show because a lot of the people I talk to are all interested in what are we choosing to remember? Like, I don't know about you, but and maybe this is the question I want to ask is like, my mom went through a dictatorship, and I think because I didn't, I always wanted her to tell me what happened. Yeah. I wanted the testimony, and I didn't understand that was selfish, because asking my mom to remember meant something really different for her than it did for me. So is there, like, even in your own story, like, where are those like forgetting, what is that dynamic between forgetting and remembering?
I mean, right, because sometimes I write because I don't remember. You're like, I mean, it's not even like deep. I have to write sometimes to remember. And the thing about revision is that if you're writing nonfiction, is that it constantly like changes the memory, right? If you go back and revise, you're having a different vision of the memory. So yeah, like there are a lot of gaps and like a lot of holes, and I try to rely on asking people around me. Like I was just thinking the other day about like I wish I could ask the first person I kissed or who kissed me, like what they remember.
Yeah.
Like what do you and it might be interesting because they might be like we kissed, you know what I mean? Like they may be like
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
remember that shit. I don't remember that shit, fam. Like did I kiss you? But I still want to be like, what did you what did you think? What did you feel? And I think you can ask those questions, but the older you get, the more awkward and sad and scary those questions become. So I have a lot of gaps, I think, around like what I actually experienced, like when people loved me.
Wow.
Like I have a lot of gaps around like what actually happened. I mean, I'm talking general right now, but like my first kiss, the first time I had sex, like I know I was in Troy's room. I know I was in Troy's house. I know it was upstairs.
Yeah.
But I don't remember how I got home, and I didn't have a car. So, and I don't remember how my girlfriend got home. So I don't remember what we talked about the next day. But I remember like a lot about that experience, but not the part now that's the most important to me,
It's so interesting because even your answer is like really, I feel like your chart of how even thinking about how memory is collaborative, and that
Definitely.
certain friendships or certain strangers that were once close to us are the repositories for certain parts and moments in our life.
For sure.
And this is where I want to end is the Virgo on, not the Virgo, that's hilarious, on Virgo as, I mean, intuitively you knew is like, it is the body, it's health, it's wellness. And something that I'm really moved that you talk about specifically with other men is skin hunger.
Right.
And I've heard you talk a lot about it with other Black men in context of like non-sexual intimate touch with each other too, and how when we don't have access or when we don't know how to ask for or receive or give like non-sexual intimate touch to each other, how that does feed like these compulsions and addictions and shame.
Right.
I just think it's so important for, as a woman, it's like deeply healing to hear men want touch from each other.
Yeah.
And like want touch, period. Because there's something as a woman where I'm like, when can men touch me when it feels like it's not like coming from starvation? Like how do we approach each other with a touch that feels like it's been nourished?
I mean, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
That is, I mean, but part of it, I think, is we have to ask different questions. And so, of like cis sort of like heterosexual men that I know won't even, at this age, you try not to even talk about sex, because if you do, you're actually talking about sex with like, probably somebody's like partner, like who's, but even then when you do talk about it, people still talk about it in like 20 years, never, like you still talk about it like you're 30 or 25. But like the other day I was like, fam, and my boy was like, man, shut the fuck up. I was like, bruh, tell me what's the nicest place you ever been kissed, bruh. And he was like, man, I ain't trying to talk about my asshole. And I was like, nigga, I'm not trying to talk about your asshole either, dog. But
Whoa,
I'm trying to talk
escalated.
about, I know, right? I was like, I'm trying to talk about like touch, because I was like, man, somebody kissed me like on my side, on my leg, on my knee, bruh. I was like, that should make me feel like the most special person ever. I was like, have you felt that before? Are you talking about that gay shit, dog? I thought I was like, man, you know what I mean? So I'm saying, I think we have to be willing to touch and talk about touch differently. Like, just so we have to be willing to touch differently, we got to be able to use different like word assemblages to talk about what that touch means to us, especially as like cis fucking men. But I think everybody. The sex positive talk is goofy. And what I'm saying is goofy, but I just want to make space for like an awkward kind of possibility that has a lot more like elasticity. And part of that is like talking differently about what feels differently good. And I just think it's embarrassing to do that.
Yes.
But I think we gotta do it more. I'm not trying to say like the fucking like people gonna stop killing people. It's not gonna end terror necessarily, but it's some work we gotta do. I exactly like in my heart. I think it could.
I think so.
Like, I just think we gotta be ultimately much more tender. I think in the words we use and the touch that we express and feel. But I'm saying that as somebody who's like afraid to ask anybody to touch me in a way that would feel nice. So,
That's why you're
but
trustworthy, because
right,
it's hard.
okay, right,
What would you
right.
say, and then we're gonna end, but what would you say your erotic is at 51? Like, how would you describe your erotic now? Like, my erotic is more like connected, present touch. That's more like soft and intentional, where I
Okay,
feel
yeah,
like there's a presence and there's not an avoidance of the
yeah.
moment.
Okay, you know where mine is right now, and like, and it's probably gonna contradict anything I said, but whatever. It's like in the possibilities of like gratitude. I've been thinking about gratitude a lot because my grandmama died and she taught me how to pray and she taught me how to like give thanks. And I just think like I think right now the sexiest thing in the world to me that I can give and that I can receive is like not bullshit, but like sincere gratitude for whatever. And like it's very moving to me when I see people be really thankful for something or when like as somebody who is really thankful or when that shit is received because it's so hard to express thanks, but it's also super hard to like receive it. But I
Yeah.
think like to me the sexiest shit in the world is when like gratitude is like sincerely given and actually sincerely received because I think the possibilities for the body for the erotic are like infinite, but I think that's so rare. So
That is such a beautiful erotic, and it has been a beyond a pleasure speaking with you today. Like, I feel so full and so grateful.
I'm so grateful for you. Thank you so much, Issa, for making this possible and for your show. I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna go back to doing any other kind of podcast, but
Oh,
because this was just beyond incredible, and I just feel very thankful, and very, very, very lucky. So thank you.
oh, thank you so much. Do you want to plug any projects, any like your the book, the children's book?
Oh, no, I don't really want to plug anything, but
Okay.
there's some good books out there. The Wilderness is a great book by Angela Flournoy. You should check that out. And Dominion, those by Addie Kitchens. Those are two wonderful books that I've read lately. I got a book coming out next year called Good Guy. I hope y'all check that out too.
That was Kiese Laymon, who is a Leo sun. As always, to end the show, I want to leave you with some key takeaways we can all benefit from, inspired by our stars chart. So let's talk about Kiese's intricate layers of his personal and emotional cosmic architecture. For example, we discovered that Kiese is a Libra rising, which naturally gives him a grace and awareness in relationships. But with Pluto so closely aligned to his ascendant, that charm carries an extra layer and charge of intensity, depth, and a pull towards transformation. We explored how Kiese's early experiences with feeling disempowered have shaped his rather complicated relationship to asking for help and revealing vulnerability. Over the years, he's navigated the challenge of articulating the tender, often mundane needs of daily life alongside the deeper, more intimate desires that arise in romantic connections. Our conversation revealed how this journey of learning to trust, open up, and express authentic need has been a defining thread throughout his life. Kiese's chart reminds us that our rising sign isn't just about first impressions. It's a roadmap for how we move through the world. When powerful planets like Pluto hang out near your rising sign, it can add depth, intensity, and sometimes challenges in how you show up. So now I encourage you to check your own chart. You just might find hidden layers in how you relate to others, like Kiese has. And that's it for our download from the cosmos this week. If you like today's episode, please leave a comment to keep the conversation going. Hit that subscribe button. And remember that I'm live on YouTube every Wednesday answering your cosmic questions. I'll see you next week.